They got Willa. They got my daughter. I need to find her. Willa!
From acclaimed director Paul Thomas Anderson.
You can save that girl.
Today, experience what is being called the best movie of the year.
This is the end of the line. Not for you.
Leonardo DiCaprio, Sean Penn, Benicio del Toro, Tiana Taylor, Chase Infinity.
Let's go!
One battle after another. Now playing only in theaters. Experience it in IMAX. Rated R. Under 17 animated without parent.
You can hide.
Finish training for the day? Time to fight post-workout fatigue with Core Power Protein Shakes. They're packed with 26 grams of high-quality protein to build muscle and electrolytes to help hydrate. The nutrition you need to help your body replenish, rebuild, and repair post-workout so you can power on to the next one. Champion your recovery with Core Power. Visit corepower.com to learn more.
At Starbucks, we offer full and part-time baristas 100% upfront college tuition coverage, which means they can thrive at our company and in class. At Starbucks, benefits like college tuition coverage are just the start.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How We're the Podcast. And I'll start off by giving an apology that you are again listening to my voice once again. But today I'm a late sub for Gav, who I would love to say is being a lazy so-and-so, but he's anything but. So I can't actually say that about him. But today we're going to be talking about all things, because in the aftermath of collecting a well-earned point at Crystal Palace, we put out on the socials we wanted to hear your questions, probably because you're sick of mine. But of course, you all stepped up, so we have a lot of questions to throw at our panel today. So, of course, I have a few gentlemen with me to provide all of the answers. And first up, we have Andrew Smithson. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Chris. It was a nice surprise to see you were jumping on the pod at last. Short notice there. Very good of you.
Yeah, I thought everyone was going to hear Gav's voice when it all kicked off today, but it's mine once again. But Andrew, are you ready? You got all the answers for everyone today?
Of course. I don't know the questions, but I know all the answers. So, I mean, the other two lads, if they want to sit this one out, I've got it covered, boys.
Well, that's it. It's better than that, than the other way around, that you don't know the answers, but you know the questions. So we'll get into it. But and next up to help us along, we have Ant Waterson. Hello, Ant.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Are you feeling like a football guru today?
As always, mate. It's a pity that we haven't got Chris, is known as the oracle of our group, but he's going to be asking the questions today instead of answering them. So that's a bit of a shame. But yeah, all good, mate. I'm ready for it. There was the meeting of the two minds yesterday between me and Andrew. We were both at the ladies' game yesterday, so thoroughly enjoyed meeting him for all of 20 seconds. But it was fun.
Well, do you want to tell us a bit about the game, Ant?
Yeah, they got a very good, well-earned point against a very good Birmingham side. Thought it was a very, very good game, to be honest. First half was a bit stop-starty because I think the ref must have got a whistle on the day as a birthday present or something, or just didn't stop blowing it. And then the time she should have blew it for a penalty for us, she gave a free kick the other way in the second half. Apart from that, it was an excellent game, excellent atmosphere as well at the stadium. I always think it struggles at the stadium because there's not. There was only 750 there, but for a women's game, it's decent attendance. But the atmosphere I thought was really good. So it normally struggles at the stadium, considering, like 750 and 40,000 stadium, you kind of struggle. But no, it was really good. It was a very good game. Against, like I say, two sides who'll be bang up there at the end of the season.
Yeah. So is that the expectation then this season?
Hopefully, yeah. There's three going up, right? Two definitely going up, and then one in a possible playoff. So there could be three. I think they'll definitely be up there, see what happens.
Good stuff. Keep us updated with that then, Ant. And last up, we have someone who you heard across the weekend with my good self talking about how great we were at Selhurst Park, which is Johnny Hawley. Hello, Johnny.
Hello, Chris. Yeah, I'm another of the everyone's sick of me voice brigade today, probably. But unfortunately for the listeners, you are stuck with us again. So enjoy that.
Yeah, difference is you chose to be on. I tried to get off, but we'll just leave that difference right there, Johnny, won't we? But it is. I mean, at the weekend, it is funny because we went through all of those. I I remember there was times in League One and stuff where we were having crap performances at crap places, and it was like, oh, we have to get on and record and talk about that after. But when you have a
Not because
performance,
me and you on it.
aye, exactly, aye. We tried to do like 10 minutes. We're trying to drag it out. But Johnny, it was great talking about a cracking performance and a result like that, isn't it? It's just good fun.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll never get sick of talking about Sunderland anyway, but it certainly makes everything just that little bit easier and sweeter, doesn't it, when the results are going the right way? And it's certainly a lot better than the reaction pods I was on for the friendlies over the summer, which seemed to be an unwritten rule that if I'm on one, Sunderland aren't scoring.
Yeah, that one with you and Bomber for the Hearts game. I stuck that on in the car. And it was like I was driving up from London. It was like a comedy show.
Yeah.
I was just laughing me back off the whole way up.
Never mind a tough listen. That was a tough speak. That one, that was hard to get through.
I mean, I've never heard two fellas sound so miserable talking about a game. But yeah, just talking about the weekend, Andrew. Just because we haven't heard your thoughts on our draw at Sellers Park. So, what were your thoughts about it?
Like yourselves, really impressed. I thought it was a really good performance, an important point, and I think it's good that we've shown to the Premier League teams that we can go away from home and give a good side a good game. This wasn't a fluky draw where we've just all sat back. We've tried to have a couple of attempts at them, and yeah, I was really, really encouraged. It was a really good watch from us.
Yeah, and Ant as well. We've been talking all this weekend about a fantastic performance, and I mean, I think I tried to describe it as almost kind of the perfect blueprint to get us going away from home this season after that defeat at Burnley. But I think if we can maybe get a few shots on target and maybe not rely too much on our goalkeeper a little bit, I think you've got that perfect balance, haven't you?
Yeah. I mean, obviously in the preview pod that we did, I said a sneaky 1-0 win, and it was looking good on it.
Well, when Bobby came on, I thought, here we go.
Oh, that's it. I thought it was meant to be. To be fair, but no, I mean, I think you're right. I think there's going to be times in the season where we are going to have to maybe trouble the opposition goalkeeper away from home. But as Andrew just said there, this is a good side. Double cup winners within the last 6 months. You know what I mean? A really, really good team. And I thought Palace played well. But the good thing about it was a lot of Palace fans online, everything like that, were praising us, our fans and everything. So that was great. And like I said, I think what needs to be said about Robin Ruffs has already been said. Absolutely magnificent. So it's what we need. It's nice to, have that reliability on the defence and the goalkeeper to, get us out the mire when teams are pressurising us. So yeah, really, really good result. And
yeah,
I think that's probably the standard, I think now. We'll see what we can do against other sides. But yeah, we're just sitting pretty, aren't we?
Yeah,
that's Premier League like.
we're all getting nosebleeds at the top end of the Premier League, but yeah, in terms of Robin Roofs, if you look at the likes of Man United and teams like that at the top, I think we've got an absolute bargain in the summer. I think the crazy money was spent. I mean, Johnny, just a last point from you on that game, because we talked about the performance a lot, but I was looking at Mukelele's, or Mukele's, however you want to pronounce it, his interview after the game, and I thought that was absolutely brilliant, because I think he was still, as I mentioned, still struggling to get Matete out of his back pocket. But the way he spoke, just you could just tell that the conversations they're having behind the scenes, the players all know how good these points are, and they're coming to fight for these points. And you can just that just came through as he spoke.
Yeah, and I think it's been a feature of basically all the messaging we've seen come out of the club over the past few weeks and months, from the players, from the coaching staff, from everybody. The message has always been, we're ambitious, we feel like we belong here. We're not just here to make up the numbers. We want to go out there and prove ourselves at the highest level. Gav was particularly taken by Granit Xhaka's quote before this particular game. It was, I can't remember the exact wording, but it was, we're going to go out there and try and win, basically. And I think that mentality is pretty clearly being instilled in all the players. It's clearly an active effort. And yeah, Mukele, just another expression of that, which it's the mentality you need to have, isn't it? And it's one thing talking the talk, but at the moment they're walking the walk as well. It's easy to say, oh yeah, we want to, battle hard and earn these points, and we want to prove that we belong. They've got to go and back it up on the pitch. And so far, it's, it's all looking pretty good. So let's hope that it continues.
That's it. It's so scary talking about it when Sunderland are good, because you just expect it to blow up. And actually, well, some of these questions are related to that. So we'll get into everyone's questions on X, as I think it is now. I'm an old fella, so I never keep up to date with what these things are called. But the first question, I'll go to you, Andrew. And actually, it's on that theme a little bit. It's from Paul Gordon, and it says, "Is the current feel-good factor sustainable?" He says, "Been a fan since the 70s, and all my instincts are that this will blow up. Yet it does feel like we've seriously got a club based on strong foundations. Is this a real turning point or another false dawn?" So an easy one to start with for you, Andrew.
Well, it's a fair question because we have had false dawns in the past, but I do think there's something different this time. The squad we've put together has been done so in such a clever way that yeah, I think we can look forward to the next few games. I don't think the bubble's going to burst anytime soon. There are going to be times when we struggle, and I know everybody's getting a bit fearful for December. We have a tricky run, but I'm looking at the next few games. Famous last words, of course, but I'm looking at Nottingham Forest and Aston Villa and Manchester United, and I think we've got a chance of getting something against them. I think our team is capable of that. So that's not just because I'm always glass half full. I think the performances we've seen, the team we've put together, do suggest that we're going to be in this division to compete. And if we repeat that type of recruitment again in January and next summer, I think the club can only grow and get stronger. I'm not shouting that we're going to be winning the title anytime soon, but I do see signs of real, steady, confident progress. Nothing's built on sand at the moment. These are good foundations we've put in place.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it, Ant? It doesn't seem to, you see some clubs kind of bounce up the leagues, and sometimes it's this immediate thing. But as Andrew touched on there, we seem to have built this. But I don't know if this is just a personal thing, but I don't think optimism comes easy to a Sunderland fan, Ant.
It doesn't, and obviously 3 out of the 4 of us obviously old enough to remember us in the 90s and how bad that was and the false dawns that we had then. Sorry, Johnny, but we have had that, and I think it's a really good question, that, because obviously under Peter Reid, when we finished 7th twice in a row, and then it all went downhill from then. The Sam Allardyce one, especially, we all remember that at Everton when we relegated the Mags and all that, and we thought, right, we're back now. This is the time where we're going to kick on, and then that all went wrong. But yeah, I mean, I find it, and I'm a glass half full kind of bloke as well, but I do find it hard to get too carried away. Like, I was talking to a lad yesterday, and he was saying, "Oh, we'll be fine, we'll be this, that, the other." And I said, "But we are Sunderland. You got to remember that." And I think some of us, because we've had these wounds that still won't heal, that we maybe need to just think, actually, think ahead, shoot for the stars. Why not with this crop that we've got, and this, and Andrew hit the nail on the head with these fixtures coming up, and like Villa at the minute are poor, and I mean it's bound to be, on Sunday their confidence is going to be really fragile. If we can get at them early on, I don't see an issue there. Forest have gone under a new manager bounced this, that, and the other, but it's a manager who's a complete different, type of manager to what the previous one was. In Nuno, he plays a complete different brand of football. Are they going to be the same players? And they've just gone off the bat with 3-0 defeat. And then Man United can be anything, at the minute. And it's not good. So, why not? Why not think positive and do everything like that? Because at the minute, what we wanted, I think, is far being exceeded by what's happened so far. Would have probably took 5 points from the first 4 games. We're a couple of points ahead that, and I think we're doing all right. And I think probably to answer the lad's question, really, why can't it not be, a new start for us and us on a forward trajectory to try and get where we are, where we want to be, and that's hopefully playing Europe and getting far in cups and stuff. I don't see a reason why not. I think what we've got on the pitch is brilliant. What we've got off the pitch, I think, is probably the most important thing. We've got people in the correct positions who are doing a fantastic job. So yeah, I'm chuffed to bits at the moment. But yeah, you've always got that thing in the back of your head thinking, It is Sunderland Football Club here.
Sounded like a true Sunderland fan at the beginning because you went, I'm glass half full, but it went wrong here, it went wrong here, it went wrong here, and it went wrong here. But Johnny, I mean, I just wanted to come to you on this one as well because, I mean, you go back, and talked about a couple of times in the past, and actually in terms of transfers and maybe money spent and, that the club's stepping up in that sense, you go back to the Roy Keane era. Now, when we signed up, we broke the British transfer record for a goalkeeper and, we elevated ourselves at that point. But we still found it hard to then keep that momentum going. But we had that summer where we thought, right, we've cracked it, we've made it. And again, Paul Gordon here asks, is this a real turning point or another false dawn? I know it's it's a really tough question to answer at the minute, but what can we look to say he's the evidence that actually this is an ongoing thing?
I think the biggest difference is the joined up thinking and strategy that's clearly in place at the top of the club. The last time we were in the Premier League, that 10-year stretch, there was times where we spent decent money. There was times where we made some really good signings. Craig Gordon, you mentioned breaking the British transfer record for a keeper. He was a good signing. He made some great saves. He helped keep us in the league. We signed Jermaine Defoe. We signed, you can list off plenty of players who came in and did a really good job. But lurching from manager to manager, there was very little cohesive thought put into that. It was, a little bit like you see with Man United these days. They go from, Louis van Gaal to Jose Mourinho to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer to Ten Hag to Amorim, and it's, you effectively get a squad that's a Frankenstein of 6 different guys' ideas. Whereas at Sunderland now, the way that we work with obviously Speakman and now Ghisolfi and, everybody knows the model. I did do the inverted commas there with my fingers, don't worry. The way that that's been put in place, there are succession plans for basically every staff member at the club, from the playing staff all the way to the top. That is something that I think stands you in much better stead to turn this into something really long lasting and as well also the recruitment. Obviously, we've branched out a little bit from just signing, a load of kids this summer. There's been some slightly mold-breaking signings in that sense, but still, we have a lot of very high-value young players who are going to just help going forward. As much as we don't love talking about the financial side of football, and we all have to be accountants to actually follow the game these days, but it's important to have a conveyor belt of talent that we can, sell on for good money, reinvest, and then it keeps the cycle going. So, yeah, I think there are a lot of things that we've put in place. The foundations over the past few years point towards sustainability for me. Whereas last time it was, it was a lot of luck that they had to either go for us or against us to really make a difference. So yeah, I'm certainly in the glass half full brigade.
Yeah, and we'll move on to the next one, which is from Pete, which is at DSR_Dark Angel, of course, and the one I'm putting to you, Andrew, out of the summer window and the first 4 games in the league, what has been your standout moments so far for the club as a whole?
Well, I think the winner at home to Brentford was massive on the pitch. I think that was really huge. And I think off it, I think Pete mentioned the summer window there, didn't he, Chris? I think in terms of transfers, I think it's been said before, but it's true. Getting Granit Xhaka to be part of this was just like sending out a massive flare to all sorts of different players that we're not just here to be whipping boys. We're here to try and do something. And if you're signing up for Sunderland, you're not signing up to just be getting beat every week. You're signing to try and give a good account of yourself and progress the club and progress the career. But that type of question, Chris, you could ask us all the same question and would probably all come up with different answers because there's been that many really good one-off.
That's what I was hoping
already.
That's what I was hoping.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll stop there before I take everybody else's options. I'll leave it at that.
No. What was your standout moment, Andrew, before we move on?
Well, yeah, we'll go that Brentford winner because we'd gone behind in the game. We responded really well. Everybody probably would have been happy with a point, and yet we've gone, no, we'll push this and we'll turn it into 3. Good header, good celebrations, happy days.
Last minute winner, can't beat them. And your standout moment so far for the club?
Definitely the first game of the season. Just the atmosphere, just everything that was just meant on it. Everything was just wonderful. It was proof that we were back, and then that first goal from Eliza Mayenda. I never thought I'd even louder scream than the Ballard goal to see in my life, but it was just as good, if not better. It was amazing, and I was glad it was Mayenda as well.
Yeah, and yours, Johnny?
They've taken two pretty good ones there, like. I think if I'm going to go with something off the pitch, I think Andrew mentioned it before, the day Shaka signed officially and that was announced. I think that, I had mates who I, go to the pub and watch football with who support other teams, and I was getting messages from them like, bloody hell, you mean business, don't you? Like, what have you just gone and done? I can't believe it's actually happened. And that kind of opened my eyes a bit. I was like, oh, actually, yeah, we really are making waves here. And then that helped to lay the foundations for everything that was to come. So, yeah, maybe I didn't enjoy it as much as I enjoyed the opening day or the last minute winner, but it was...
Are you a forward thinker? Then you need an HR and finance platform that thinks like you do. Workday is the AI platform that helps propel your organization, your workforce, and your industry into the future. Workday, moving business forever forward.
Did my card go through?
Oh no.
Your small business depends on its internet, so switch to Verizon Business. And you could get LTE business internet starting at $39 a month when paired with select business mobile plans. That's unlimited data for unlimited business.
There we go.
Get the internet you need at the price you want. Verizon Business. Starting price for LTE business internet, 25 megabits per second, unlimited data plan with select Verizon Business smartphone plan savings. Terms apply.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to help you make the most of your summer with Michelob Ultra, a superior light beer worth playing for. Play for it with the guys when you're competing to see who can sink more birdies on the golf course, because winning tastes even better with Ultra on the line. Play for Ultra. Fill your fridge with Michelob Ultra this summer. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2025 Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
It was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, you're in Leeds, aren't you? So you must have been getting buzzed every single day saying, you've nicked another one off us.
Yeah, weirdly, the group chats were quite quiet when that was happening, strangely.
I think we sent a spy into Leeds and nicked their shortlist, basically.
Don't say that, I'll get run out of town, eh?
Yeah. Whoa, I didn't insinuate you. I think you dropped yourself in it there, to be fair. And then, so moving on to the next one, because I think this one's really interesting, and I've touched on this one a little bit since he signed, and actually we were talking a little bit about it on deadline day. But Andrew, the question comes in from Steve Richards. He says, "Do you think Trai Hume's place in the starting 11 is under threat once Gertrude beds in?" Now, a little snippet from Jeff Brown the weekend, where he was talking about the physicality of the team. Taking on Crystal Palace. And he actually said there is this, you look at the decision to put Gertrude on ahead of Dan Neil, and Gav maybe hinted that it was down to that physicality. And Jeff Brown was like, well, actually, if you look at Trai Hume, does he almost still look like that? He's got that physical presence of a championship player, which is an odd thing to say. But do you think he's under threat from Gertrude at fullback?
I think any player in the team's under threat, because Lebris has shown that he is willing to change things if needed. In Hume's case, sad to say it, I think, yeah, he could be missing a few games in the coming weeks. He has been really good, Trai Hume. He's been that classic example of what the club are trying to do. They've brought him in and kind of built him year on year from League One to Championship to Premier League. And he's looked good so far. I'm not calling for him to be dropped, but Gertrude, he's a full international. I believe he's got Champions League experience. If not Champions League experience, he's certainly got European experience. And I wouldn't be surprised if the long-term plan is to get him in. What I would say, mind, about Hume is if he does drop out, I don't think he'll sulk. I think he'll knuckle down, properly put the graft in, and make it so that Lebris has to consider picking him again. He's done well so far. He's not let us down. but we are now in the Premier League and we are coming to get up against some of the best players in the world. Labris has got a good squad there. It's got a lot of options. Yeah, Gertrude is going to be expecting to be involved soon enough.
Yeah, but it is an interesting one, and and that sign of the times changing. That we've got this fella who's on loan, been a first team player for Leipzig and Feyenoord since he broke through. 25 years old, Dutch international. We've got a deal, an option to buy that's worth over 18 million. And he's going to be fighting for that. If he likes it here and he wants to settle here and he wants to find a home almost if he's not getting a game at Leipzig, he's not messing around. He hasn't come to sit on the bench, has he?
No, not at all. And you know what? He is a very good footballer, as what you've just said there. But going back to the original question, I want every single position in this team to be under threat. I don't want just the Trai Hume stuff or anything like that just because it's in that. I want two players in every position so that if one isn't performing, you've got a like for like that and come in for him, and that's what it should be. Even look at the fact we've got two good goalkeepers with Anthony Patterson who pretty much made the saves to bring us up here and in that final, and he's obviously number 2 goalkeeper now because we've signed Robin Ruffs. It's what you want. It's the same with like a seal up front, everything like that. If and he said Enzo there, if Wilson's not performing and you've got Mayendi, you've got Brobby and stuff. So the fact that we've recruited well in all them positions is tremendous because we've got that option now. And if it comes to a point where Hume isn't performing or he gets suspended or something, I was expecting to be suspended by now, and he hasn't got any yellow cards yet. So it goes to show how well he's done, and he has done well. I think he has adapted quite well so far to the Premier League. It's completely different. It's so quick and stuff. But I think he's had a very solid start to the season. I don't think he's put a foot wrong so far. So fair play to him. But he's got to be thinking now though that he's got to raise his game because he's got a top quality player, as I said there, an international footballer who's played in European competitions, breathing down his neck if he puts a foot wrong. It's what we need.
I think Ant's dead right there about we need a squad with like 2 players for every position. And in a lot of ways, we've got that. One of the earlier questions there about the foundations and can this be a real period of change for us? One of the reasons I'm that confident is the squad's got real depth. It's not just like we've got 11 players and if somebody's injured, that's us absolutely knackered. We've got really good options. We've touched there Gertrude. He's a full international. He's having to be on the bench. Ballard's going to be back soon. He's done well in the Premier League so far for us. He's looked good. There's that Traore we've signed to give us a bit of backup on the wings. I mean, on Saturday, Enzo Lefebvre, who last season we were expecting, if we go in the Premier League, he's going to be our key man. He was injured on Saturday, and not a problem. We've been able to bring a Dingra back in, and we've been able to deal with that loss. There are so many positions now where if somebody has an off game or is unavailable, we can mix things up. We've got 3 very different types of strikers there. Again, we're not restricted. We do have this depth, and I think that really puts us in a strong position.
Yeah. Well, on that topic as well, Johnny, we got another one which is on a similar theme from Cam at Right and Privacy. He asks, if everyone is fit at the same time, in brackets, unlikely as it is, who makes the matchday squad and who drops out? Because he said it seems surreal to imagine a scenario where there's no place for an 09, Rig, Neil, Mundle, even as sub.
So nice, easy question then.
Well, it ties in with the Hume Gertrude one because you've got Hume who's like, I want to crack a Premier League football, and we've got this 20 million quid right back who's breathing down his neck for his position.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a very difficult problem to solve, but it's a lovely problem to have. You'd far rather be in this position rather than looking at it going, bloody hell, how are we going to fill a bench? Which some teams have been in that state at various points over the years. This is all just stalling to give us time to think.
Season pro.
Basically, I think that Labris is not going to tie himself down to a concept of a best 11, which doesn't really exist in modern football anyway, does it? So many teams have to be adaptable based on who they're playing and the different plans and all the rest of it. But I think Labris is going to probably have a similar attitude with the however many it is in the match day squad now. I was going to say the 18, but I think it might be 20 or 21. But whoever's going to make that match day squad, I think we can afford now to balance individual game considerations. You know, if there's a certain game where we think we're going to be getting most of the joy down the wide areas, then, you know, then you can prioritize. A Mundle is a good example of somebody who you could easily see, certainly at first when he comes back from his injury, maybe struggling to get into that squad and start making an impact. Because we've got so many different options, we can, you know, stack the bench based on what we feel like we need on any given day. I would expect to be a bit brutal. Players like Neil and Sirkin, who have still yet to commit the future to the club, I suspect that isn't going to bump you too high up the pecking order in terms of getting on the bench. You know, if there's lads who are signed on for 3, 4, 5 years and you're potentially walking in the summer, you know, I think you've got to be a little bit ruthless sometimes and say, well, you know, you've got to prioritise who's going to be here for the long term. So there'll probably be a little bit of that coming into factoring into the thinking. But I think by and large, we're going to see, I think, you know, the lads who've come in for the bigger money, we're going to see them in the squad more often than not, unless they're injured or unavailable. And then I think, yeah, it's going to be fighting it out between the rest of them. I'd expect to see Rigg given plenty appearances off the bench, though. I think that the club they've shown, I know he only got 1 minute against Palace, which was a little bit, you know, what's the point of this? But, you know, he came on against West Ham and I think he came on against Brentford as well. So they're clearly willing to help his development along by giving him these minutes off the bench and stuff. So, yeah, I think it's going to be more often than not, it's going to be the bigger money lads, the new lads who are prioritised, and then, yeah, it'll be an eye on development and an eye on sort of horses for courses selection, I think. So, yeah, somebody like a Mundle or even an O'Nien, I think they're going to have some fight on their hands.
Yeah. Well, actually, going into what Johnny's touched on there, Andrew, because we've got a question from John Ridley. He asks on the theme, does Dan Neil sign a new deal or be sold in January?
Well, it's looking now like he will be moved on in January. I liked the idea of Dan Neil in the Premier League. I thought he could have done a job for us. He might still get minutes because, as we alluded to earlier, the chances of us having an injury-free season are virtually nil. But he's not even come off the bench yet in a Premier League game. Granit Xhaka just seems to be indestructible. Touch wood. The other players, Siddiqui.
You've said it now. Let's bookmark.
I'm going to see now what's going to happen on Saturday.
Well, I could see I was about to trip myself up, and then I just thought I can't think of another word to describe it. But you know, Siddiqui as well, and Diarra. We've paid serious money for them. They are really finding their feet in the Premier League. At the moment, I don't see how Dan Neil finds a place. And if somebody comes along in January, we've had this conversation a lot. The club do look at the wider picture, and they take out some of the sentiment. And if there's an academy player for whom they can get a little bit of money for, and he's not expected to have many minutes, the club are likely to look at that. And I do think there will be interest in Dan Neil, because I going back to one of the original things I said about him, I do think he is a really good player. It's just the squad has moved on over the last couple of months.
Yeah, and Ante really is a strange one. Club captain, one of our own. Tip brought us up from League One. And I was just looking at the replies to John Ridley's question that he sent us, and the replies to them are split. You know, there's a couple saying, well, I think he'll be sold. Another one, I think he'll sign a contract. It's this kind of real confusion, isn't it? That, you know, you want us to move on, but you want someone like that to be in the team.
Yeah, it is hard. If it was like, you know, a lad from, you know, Birmingham or whatever, we wouldn't be asked, would we? You know what I mean? Not that I'm saying it's true or whatever. It was just, I thought of Birmingham straight away. But, you know, like, that's the issue. You know, but the problem I've got with it all is, if I was Dan Neil, and, you know, I'm a lad from the Northeast, and I support Sunderland, and I would love to be a professional football and play for Sunderland. I had a signing contract last year. You know what I mean? It's like, that's a strange one. What is, you know, whether he's had an offer, whether he doesn't, you know, agree with it and all that. Now he's found himself on the on the bench. And like I say, we haven't seen him in the league this year yet. He played in the cup game, but he didn't exactly, pull up many trees in that game. He was amongst many, don't get us wrong, but I just think, I don't think the club will let him go for nothing. I think it'll be because he's, an academy product, so we get 100% profit. In PSR terms, that'll be excellent for us. We're talking about PSR and all that stuff, but I just think the way that we are now, it would be stupid for him not to have signed a contract. But that boat, I think, now is sealed, considering we've got Jacare and we've got Siddiqui's. I think Siddiqui's the one who surprised everyone. The fact he's been so versatile and the fact he's been, played in every game. I think when we signed him, I think it was more like he was a sub right back or whatever, but also play midfield. But in pre-season, he's been outstanding. So, and like I say, he's took that into the season. So the thing is, we've got to remember as well, it's also January when we do lose Siddiqui and Diarra for, what could be up to 3 weeks. Then, you look at it, we're probably going to move Lafayette to the middle, but there's still one more spot there, isn't there? And you probably look at, is that Dan Neil's position then? And is that his, audition, so to speak, for 3 or 4 weeks? But I think you still need to have him around and all that. And I think he'll still appear in the squads until Christmas and stuff, and then see what happens in January. But whether he's a Sunderland player next season, I very much doubt. And it is a shame, but it is what it is.
Go on then, hang your hat on the question, the answer to this question. Will he be a Sunderland player in February?
No.
No. Okay. And Johnny, well, we'll come on to that in a second, actually, because Johnny touched on a couple of good points in there where he was talking about who knows what happened last season. We don't know the sequence of events. Was Dan Neil offered a contract when we were about to go up and he didn't want to sign it because he wanted to hang on and maybe push for a bit more money? Did the club not offer him a contract? Did the club waiting to see what happened in the summer? We don't know from which side the kind of the push or pull was on, do we? We don't know if any offers have been made, if he's turned down anything, or what's been offered. It's a real strange one that nobody knows much about.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with casting judgments on situations like these, don't you? Because God knows what's gone on in the background. Anybody could be in the right or the wrong. More than likely, it's some mixture of the two. I doubt very much that the club have gone and said to Dan Neil, we'll do everything you want. And Dan Neil's just turned around and gone, nah, you can piss off. Like, I don't think that was a conversation. I don't think it would have been the same the other way around. Same for Sirkin. There'll be one side story, the other side story, and the truth somewhere in the middle, I'm sure. So I think we as fans have got to just, it's a bit rich for us to say on this podcast where, all we do is talk about all the minutiae of every situation. But, for a lot of particularly the contractual sort of things with the players and even when there's, rumours of such and such wants to move and this player wants to leave or whatever, I think you've just got to try and, wipe all that out your mind and just focus on the football during the season. Obviously the transfer window is shut now. It's not going to be open again until January. So we've got a good few months now where, there'll be, obviously the club won't be ignoring it. They'll be having conversations with agents, both of players at the club and potential targets. I'm sure, all of that work will be continuing apace in the background. But I think we've just got to try and, focus on the football, see what the lads do on the pitch. And, that's the only thing we can really judge them on, because that's the only thing that we actually see every part of. There's nowhere to hide on the pitch. If you have a stinker or you're not putting the effort in, or if you play great and you're scoring goals and winning games, whatever it is, we can see all of it, so we can judge that. Whatever's going on in the background, who knows? There could be any number of reasons for any number of situations to arise. So, yeah, I think we've got to just try and block it out and as best as we can, just support the lads when they're on the pitch. Even if we think they're going to end up leaving within the next few months or at the end of the season, it doesn't really matter. While they're on the pitch this season, they need our backing, and that should be it, really.
Yeah, and that's it. Well, this is the thing, but we love those players, don't we, because of what they did last season. So it's confusing from a fan's point of view. Just very quickly, I'll give you 2 words to answer these questions. But will Dan Neil be a Sunderland player in February, and will Dennis Sirkin be a Sunderland player in February?
Dan Neil, no. Dennis Sirkin, yes.
Okay, because I guess he'll still be coming back to fitness. I would assume after.
He'll still have a cast on in
Well,
February, I reckon.
I can't remember when he's out till again after that latest blow he's had. But moving on.
6 weeks. It's always 6 weeks.
It's always, yeah. Well, yeah, Labrie says 6 weeks, 6 weeks, and then gives an update after that. But Andrew, on a different subject, we were talking about the Palace game and our tactics. We've got a question from Ian Crow. He says, "How concerned should we be about our creativity and attack and play?" He said, "If we look at Leeds, 95 goals last season, but this season they haven't scored from open play. Another show of the step up in quality. I think as our attack and players gel and adapt to the league, it will improve." But we had a quick conversation about this at the weekend where I think we're playing exactly the same way as we played last season, because I don't think it's anything new, Andrew. I don't think we actually created huge amounts in games last season.
True. After the West Ham win, when we scored 3, I think there was a little bit of a shock, because that's the first time in I don't know how many months we'd scored 2, never mind 3. Most of our games are won by a single goal. Yeah, Leeds were a really good team and probably deserved to win the championship last year. I'm just thinking back to that game at Elland Road where we really pushed them hard and then were able to bring a couple of lads on and that changed things. But what Sunderland and Leeds did last year, I don't think is, or what Leeds did necessarily isn't too much of a concern now, because our squad has changed so much over the summer. Leeds perhaps are going to struggle in games, and from what I understand, they were a bit powder puff against Fulham, and then they've gone and conceded a last-minute goal. I don't think that's as likely to be the case for Sunderland. The Crystal Palace game is probably very similar. You know, we've been in a tight game, and yet we've managed to edge it and get the point. Going forward, we probably do need to have a bit more of attacking threat away from home. But I'm not too concerned in general. We've scored 3 in the first game at the stadium, 2 in the second game at the stadium. At Burnley, we've created chances. We even had a couple of half-decent moves against Palace. So I think we can threaten teams, we can put them under pressure, but we are not the type of team who is going to have a side penned into their box for long periods. That's just not the way Sunderland play. So I'm not concerned just yet.
Yeah, I'm a bit similar to Andrew, and again, taking the Palace game, I thought we were really organised. We hunted impacts for the ball. We controlled the game for long periods without creating anything. But is that not creating anything in those periods? Is that any sort of concern?
No, not at all. The problem is, I think, football's kind of changed a little bit, where a lot of people focused on, your XGs and chances created, chances scored, and all that palaver. And I've always been of the opinion one stat counts in football, and it's the final result. You know what I mean? And we've got ourselves 3 excellent results out of 4. I think it'll come where, when the likes of Talby and Adringa, who are still getting used to how we play. I think obviously in November, December time, when I think that we played like your 9 and 10 games and stuff, they'll really come to the fore. I think Brian Bobby, when he plays regularly, will provide a completely different kind of type of striker than what Mayender and Isidore have done, where we can hold it up and bring them 2 into play. And I think that's where we'll probably see them at the best. But at the minute, I really couldn't care less, to be totally honest, that we've created nigh on 4 chances. We've got, we've scored a few goals, as Andrew said. We're not, it's not as if we've drew 4 games 0-0 or lost 4 games. And what I think you've got to remember is, if you put that back to your Burnleys of 2 seasons ago, or Ipswich last year, where they came up and had a really, really good goal, but forgot about defending. And we're doing that right at the moment. We're becoming a team that's hard to score against. And if we get that right, the thing up top, attacking wise, will sort itself out, because we've got good attacking players. But we've got to remember for the start of everything here, for us to stay up, we have to be solid at the back. We have to be able to keep these clean sheets, and we've done that really well so far. So no, I'm really not fussed at the moment.
Yeah. Just quickly sticking with you, and for a second, just because another question we had on that theme was from Michael, and he said, for me, my ender should replace Talby on the right, as I think he's more creative, but I think Regis likes the tracking back of Talby. What do you reckon?
I think Talby is in the team for that. You know, the fact he's very, very quick. Yes, he's a very good at attacking and everything like that. You know, we saw him in pre-season. You know, he got himself a couple of assists, but his work rate, Chris, is phenomenal. You know, I've seen him in 3 games now where he just does not stop. And it, you know, on Saturday for that, where we needed him to, you know, do that graft and do all that, and he was getting stuck in at the back as well. You know, remember, this lad's only a kid. And the fact he's not scared to put himself into tackles, not scared to, you know, get hurt as well, is tremendous for us. My end is probably the same. My end did that a lot last year, where, you know, he was tracking back when he was playing out there. But for me at the minute, I think you've just got to keep Talby just for that work rate alone. There will come a time where, you know, we don't want to burn him out, and my end maybe comes in there, or a drinker plays there and the fake player left or whatever. But it's good having that options. But for the minute, there's a reason why he's in that team. I think that's the reason why.
Yeah. And Johnny, just on that topic of the attack and play, he's got lots of options now, hasn't he?
Yeah, and I think Ant was absolutely spot on to point out that, you know, a lot of this is just going to come with time. It's going to be something, and I think I've made this point a few times across various pods, and I'll probably be making it for the next sort of 3 months, I reckon. Like, all of this summer, which was such a whirlwind, the upshot of it is, yeah, we've got a really talented squad now, and we've got loads of exciting new players, but they all need time to get to know each other. And it's a bit boring to just keep going on and saying, well, we've just got to wait, just be patient and just wait. But I think it's true. You know, I think we're starting to see little green shoots of this starting to grow and build between the players. And I think, you know, we talked about this after the game, Chris, after the Palace game, about the way that particularly Siddiqui and Adingra were starting to combine together on the left wing. And, you know, our best moments going forward against Palace came when those two were starting to connect those little quicker, shorter passes together to get round the corner, to take a midfielder or a defender or a wing back out of play and, you know, open up a bit of space. And then when Adingra builds up the confidence to be taking people on, like he did on Saturday as well, these things are all going to just improve and develop with time. And we're yet to really see, Talby's a good example of this, we're yet to really see what type of player he actually is. We don't know yet as a fan base what are his, you know, biggest strengths. What is his, you know, if you asked Shamsdin Talby, what do you see yourself doing on the pitch? We don't really know that yet. So that needs to make itself apparent over time. And also, as well, I think there's a lot to be said for getting the defence right first and then letting the attack come afterwards. Because I think you've already mentioned it, but, you know, if you've got a decent defence and you're keeping goals out, you've already got a half decent chance of staying up. Then if you add the goals, you're laughing. If you're scoring loads but still conceding loads, you're still going to be in quite a lot of danger come April, May time, I would suggest. So I'm pretty happy to let them slowly work it out going forwards, as long as we keep that platform at the back, which I think a pragmatic coach like Lebris, I would imagine that's the way he's going to be going about it. And plus, the final tiny point, if you remember Tony Mowbray's team in the Championship, particularly in that first season where we got in the playoffs, they didn't really fully click into gear going forward until Ahmad started getting more games and he built that relation with Patrick Roberts, and that then became one of the focal points of our play. That needs time to develop, and those relationships, we might be surprised in 2 or 3 months' time by looking at the team and going, actually, bloody hell, those two, they love playing with each other and they dovetail so nicely. Who knows who that's going to be yet, but, you know, hopefully we'll see in the fullness of time.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
Are your business expenses playing hide and seek? With Uber for Business, the small spends that slip through the cracks, like rides and meals, go right where you need them. Because it integrates with leading expense platforms, you can say goodbye to surprise costs, missing dollars, or chasing receipts. Everything's track downable. Uber for Business. Make small steps that make a big impact. Learn more at uber.com/small steps.
Johnny mentions like green shoots. Is it fair to say, lads, I thought Talby had a bit more about him attacking wise against Palace. I've never faulted his graft. He really works his socks off. But against Palace, in my mind's eye, I seem to think him offering a bit more balance going forward, whipping a couple of balls into the box. He ended up at the far post for that cross in the first half. I feel as if we are now starting to see more of Talby's attacking possibilities. Is that fair, or is
I think you're right? Yeah, I really like him, to be honest. I think he's definitely got something. Like he's got that, like, where you think he's going to be a good player in a few years' time. Really top. I mean, and what I saw when I was at the Burnley away game, and he made this run where he ran like right across the back line, and he got played in, and I think he clipped around the keeper, and it just went wide. It was a really good effort, and if it had gone in, it would have been mint. But that run he made, I haven't seen like Patrick Roberts do that in 4 years he's been there. You know what I mean? It was just that difference where he's thinking on his feet quickly to get into the best position he can. So he's got it up. He's got cleverness as well. And as we said before, the fact that we've got him on the right when he's playing or Rodrigo or whatever, but then when Enzo comes in on the left, and Enzo against Brentford didn't half put the work in, didn't he? And in fact, Enzo's probably the best kind of type of what we've seen him in the Brentford game was defensive work, which was tremendous, and allowed Ronaldo to get forward. And I think that'll be the same with Talby and Hume. Once they click, it'll allow traitors to go outside or go inside or whatever. And yeah, I think he's, like I say, I don't think he'll play 40 odd games this season. He's a young lad, he'll need to have a rest. But for what I've seen so far, I'm very impressed.
Yeah, just my 2 pence on it as well. Quickly, is I think Talby's the sort of player who I think he likes to use the ball by passing it and crossing it more than he does taking people on.
Yeah,
which is quite opposite to Adingra, whereas Adingra seems to love getting his head down and having a run at somebody. So I think it's easier for a player who likes to dribble with the ball to start standing out, because he already knows when he gets the ball, he knows his own body and how to dribble. Whereas Talby, I think, still needs to get fully on the same wavelength as the rest of the attackers before he can then start, seeing the through ball before the opposition does, play it through the space, know the runs that the other players are going to make and that kind of thing. So I think he'll take that bit longer just because of his style of play.
Yeah, and I think Jeff Brown made a fantastic point as well on the pod the other day. He was talking about Talby, and you've got to remember he's only had his breakout season in Belgium. He's 20 years old. He's come across to the Premier League, and at the moment, and I think you touched on it, and the best thing you can see that he knows what he should be doing. He knows the positions he needs to be in. But at the moment, because of that step up, he's taken that extra touch where he shouldn't, or he's not. He's not thinking about where he should put a cross because he's worried he might get closed down and lose the ball. So he's got those. He needs to break through those kind of mental barriers at the minute of making that step up as a 20-year-old into the Premier League. But it's just going to be game time, and I think we'll, a bit like we've done in the past with a lot of players, we'll keep chucking him in there, and I think he could turn out to be a world beater. But it's just going to be what he makes of it. But I want to end up before we lose Ant on this one very quickly, and I want to start with you, Ant, because we've got the question of. And this is a really easy one, so get the fixture lists out, gents, if you haven't got them out in front of you. Somebody asked, what are we going to get points rise for the remainder of September? What are we going to pick up in October? And what are we going to pick up in November? So I'll put that easy one out to you, and I'll let anyone start if they've got the fixtures in front of them.
Tell you what, like, I'm just bringing the fixtures up, so if someone else wants to go first, I'm happy.
Basically, go on, Andrew, because we've got Villa at home and Forest away in the rest of September. So
Yeah, I'm fancying 4 points from that.
Ooh.
I think, having now seen us at Palace, one of you mentioned, lads, that that's the template for away games now. And every time I say anything like this, I've already consigned Xhaka to a season-long injury. You know, famous. I think I've definitely said famous last words already in this episode. But I am looking forward to the game on Sunday against Villa, and I can't see any reason why we can't be confident of winning.
Totally agree.
Any team in the Premier League's good, and if they turn up on the day, they've got a good chance of winning. But I think on probability and on current form, Sunderland can go in against Aston Villa and fancy themselves to win it. So yeah, 4 for September, and I'll have to get me shoes and socks off to count for October and November, and count me fingers and toes for all these points that are going to be rolling in.
Go on, and before we lose you,
so what do you want?
September?
You want the rest of September?
Give us September, October, November for points.
Right. So September 3. The Forest away, it scares us a little bit, but Villa at home, I'm confident of a win. So there we go. I'm going to get stuffed.
So October,
then
Man United away, Wolves at home, Chelsea away.
Again, I'll take, as long as we beat Wolves at home, I'm happy. But I'm saying 4 because I think we'll get something off United. And then November, I think we'll beat Everton at home. I think we'll beat Bournemouth at home. They've had a really good start to the season. If we can get a point away at Fulham, I think that's brilliant. And
we're not losing any so far.
I know. But I think we'll get beat off Arsenal. I think we'll get beat off Chelsea away. I think we'll get beat off Arsenal at home. But the other games, I think we're just that side who are capable of beating these sides. I think I say Bournemouth are a great footballers, and that'll be a cracking game to see. And so will Everton with Grealish up against Hume or Gertrude. That'll be a great.
Was that 7 points for November? You've got us on.
I'll give it. Hang on. 1.
We'll be safe by Christmas at this rate.
Yeah, 7. I'll say 7 in November. But the big game there, like the big game in October is Wolves at home. We've got to be looking to beat Wolves because they're the side that's going to be in and around us. Got to be looking to beat them.
Ant's got us on 21 points by the beginning of December. Johnny, what have you got us on?
I'm quite similar to Ant, I think, actually. I share his assessment of a lot of those games. The only two that I'm looking at and thinking, yeah, definitely 0 points is Chelsea and Arsenal. Beyond that, I think I'll say 3 points for September. I fancy us against Villa at home. Forest away is a funny one. Ange's just come in there. He loves playing attacking football. They're a good side and they're at home, so that'll be a tough game. I fancy a point away at United. I fancy beating Wolves, and I think Chelsea will beat us. So I think I've got us, 3 for September, 4 for October.
Same as Ant.
And November, I am only going to say 4, just because I think I'm not as confident as Ant about Bournemouth. I think they're a bloody good side, and that's going to be... I'm annoyed as well. That's going to be a really good game, and I'm away on holiday for that, so I'm not going to be able to bloody watch it.
So you said 4 points for November?
Yes, I think we'll beat Everton, and then I think we'll take 1 point off either Fulham or Bournemouth, and then lose against Arsenal in the other one.
Okay, so Andrew, you need to finish October and November. You said 4 for September. If you can finish October and November.
Yeah, I think it's 4 again in October. As Ant mentioned, the Wolves game is an important one for us. I do see us winning that at the moment. This is mad to say, but at the moment, I think we can go to Old Trafford and get a point. I mean, I remember a time when just Man United were imperious, and now you've got teams who are targeting middle of the table finishes, comfortable with the idea of going to Man United and getting something. So yeah, 4 for September, 4 for October, November. I'm gonna go 7 points, and I'm gonna predict our first away win of the season is gonna come at Craven Cottage against Fulham. I'm gonna say we'll beat Everton. I know David Moyes has has got Everton doing quite well so far, but I just don't like David Moyes.
I can't wait to boo him at the Stadium of Light this season.
Yeah.
It has been a long time coming.
Yeah. The contrast between his reception and Jordan Pickford's is going to be pretty.
Yeah, there's going to be quite a mood whiplash, isn't there, in the stadium there?
Yeah. David Moyes basically is just going to like ask Jordan Pickford to hold his hand all day, so he gets a bit of an easier ride. So yeah, I fancy us to beat Everton. I fancy us to beat Fulham, and I think it'll be a point against Bournemouth. And don't worry, Johnny, I think that game will just be a bit scrappy. So don't worry, you're not going to miss out too much that day.
Right, if you can sort that out for us, Andrew,
I will do. I'm on it.
Right. So, gents, we've got two of you. So Ant and yourself, Andrew, have got Sunderland on 21 points after 13 games. So that's
Europe, here we come.
Yeah.
Have you added our points we've already got to that target?
Good question. No, I haven't. So what?
So
yes, of course I did. Yes, I did. Yes. I did,
okay,
yes.
fine.
Yes. So you've got us on 21 points after 13 games, and Johnny, slightly more. I don't know if to say pessimistic or realistic, but you've got us on 18 points after 13 games.
It's also mental to say that it's a realistic shout that will be on 18 points after 13 games, man. Like, imagine at the end of the Michael Beale season if you said, "Oh, by the way, lads, in 17 months you'll be debating whether you're going to take 1 or 3 points at Old Trafford." By the way, I'd have had you consigned to the loony bin immediately.
Well, yeah, I think and Andrew had us basically. So in the first 13 games, we'll have lost 3 games,
and they'll all be as a result of bad refereeing performance.
Well,
we will have been absolutely screwed over in those games. Mark my words.
VAR has to go against us at some point. Really, we're due one, aren't we? Well, we've got 2 more. I want to cover.
Well, hang on, Chris. We need to set a date for the end of November so we can all sit down again and see how wildly off we were with our predictions.
Absolutely. Well, that's it. Sunderland might have 30 points by then. We might already be pretty much safe. You never know. But we've got a couple more I want to touch on before we go. There's one we're talking about all the new signings, but I suppose it is a danger because I think especially Roofs and Siddiqui this might come in on. But we've got a question from Mackenbauer. He said, if the squad continues to perform and compete as well as it has been, who of the new signings do you think will struggle to hold on to the most?
Yeah, I mean Roofs. It's got to be Roofs, hasn't it? He's looked so good already, and the goalkeeper market in general across most of Europe is in a weird place. Like, you've got even the very top clubs are struggling to find the right options. The profiles that the clubs want aren't always there. So knowing that we only signed him for about 9 million quid as well, I'm sure there'll maybe a couple of add-ons that might trigger between now and any time he could be sold. But like, even if a club comes in and offers us 20, 30 million, which is mental to say, but that's not loads in the current day market for a top keeper from a Premier League club, we're already making a fairly good profit. If that price inches closer towards 40 and above, obviously that would be in a few years' time down the line if he keeps developing. It'd be difficult to say no, and I think there'll be no shortage of suitors, assuming that he's obviously still in form and injury-free and what have you. And then behind him, I think Siddiqui's another good shout there. I think, he, like you say, he's been such a surprise, hasn't he, the way that he's come in and just seems to have taken to it like a duck to water. That's a quality that'll have the top clubs on notice already. Like, whoa, blimey, this young kid's turned up at, his first taste of the Premier League in a promoted side and he looks this good already. That's, again, another one where if he keeps the form and he stays injury-free, I think there'll be a fairly long line of clubs looking at him.
Yeah. I mean, Andrew, is there any more in addition to that? Because you look at the Brightons of the world and even Brentford's, if you look at the way they're selling players, even if you sign players for 20, 30 million, give them a good season, 2 good seasons, especially with the 20, 21 years old, then you're selling them on for 50, 60 2 years later, aren't you?
Yeah, that's got to be the plan, and we've got to get our heads round this. Hopefully, when they're moving on, it's all done in the correct manner, and there's none of these painful transfer sagas and bitching about players and all of this. And Do I want to annoy the mags? I don't want us to be sticking banners up outside the training ground saying Siddiqui is a pure rat or whatever it was, or
well, I think you're being kind calling them banners, if I'm honest.
Well, it's another word that starts with a B, I think.
Yeah,
or telling Roofs he's not allowed to buy any more pink slices on Sea Road, or whatever it is. We do have to get used to this idea and get to a situation where everybody's okay with it and everybody's happy with it and everybody benefits from when these players leave. I'm with Johnny. I think Roofs could be one we have to really battle to keep hold of. And just touching quickly on that Man United game that we've all decided we're going to cruise to a 5-0 win in. That will be interesting because I've noticed they have now signed a keeper that we were linked with over the summer. Lamens, I think it was called. So I'd be keen to compare him against Roofs and see if there's any obvious reasons as to why we ended up plumping for Roofs.
For a decently higher fee, by the way, they signed this lad compared to Roofs, which I think will be another interesting thing to see whether it was worth it.
Exactly, yeah. That might be a nice little side story to that game, and cue Roofs letting one through his legs just to top that off nicely. The other one, I wouldn't be surprised. I know he's a little bit older. Am I right in thinking Aldrete could be an absolute legend for us? And if he is brilliant this season and then goes and has a good World Cup, he's already got good La Liga experience. Could he maybe, this time 12 months down the line, have built himself up with a good reputation and have bigger clubs looking at him? I think he's capable of it. He can ping a long ball. We already know that. So if he has a good season, there might be clubs thinking, is he somebody we need to go for?
Well, Brian Broby as well. You look at him, 18 months ago, people are looking probably about 40 million to sign him when he was banging them in for Ajax. But then we sign him a year later when he's on the I suppose, downward trajectory, I suppose. We get him for 20 million euros. If he bags 15 goals a season, he's going to be on the radar because everybody's after a striker, aren't they? Especially one who can hold the ball up. And if he shows he can do that in the Premier League, he's going to be on the radars of some club, isn't he?
That's fair.
At the risk of spiraling off into a massive tangent, but there seems to be a general movement starting to creep in football, certainly in English football, where we're moving back to a bit more of the chaos and the physicality and the blood and thunder football rather than the more methodical, possession-based sort of Pep approach that's kind of dominated the last decade. And players like an Alderete, he's mental, isn't he? You can see like he's always constantly on that line where you're like, as long as you stay this side of that line, you're brilliant. If you go that side of the line, things can get a bit. And Broby could be similar. He's so physical and obviously has so many of those attributes. We might have quite a lot of these players that are starting to just become in vogue again. And so that could feed into who gets looked at and who doesn't.
Yeah, and you talked about that. Matete is a huge, huge lad. And I tell you what, Michele, wow. I mean, it brushed him away as if he was like a little Ben or something like that.
We should not talk too much about Michele, by the way, because he is gravy. So if other fans keep hearing us bang on about him, he's going to be gone in January, him. I'm telling you, he is brilliant.
Yeah.
There you go. We've spoke about the right-back issue. Michele sees himself more as a right-back than centre-back. So
he's the way he plays, and I've seen him when he's on the ball. He doesn't look like that player who can get forward and overlap and things like that. On that from the full-back position, he looks like a centre-half. He carries himself like a centre-half.
Are you going to tell him that, Gav? Because I'm not. I think he's already pocketed Palace at Matete, so I wouldn't want to disagree with him to his face. Like,
did you call me Gav there?
Did I?
Yeah,
I think so.
Is this the podcast version of calling the teacher ma'am?
That's another one for the bloopers. But anyway, let's finish on a fun one. Let me find it. Right, we've got a question from Paul Boo Scott, and I like this one. He said, and I'll start with you, Johnny, one SAFC figure from any time you'd like to interview.
Oh, that's a good question, that actually.
I like that one.
Yeah, I do. I like that one. weirdly, I'm tempted to go for somebody who was there when it all went properly badly wrong, just because I'd love to hear all the inside stories about it. So
sadistic bug.
Yeah, I know. You can tell that we all grew up as Sunderland fans because all of us have that sadistic, self-masochistic streak inside. That's what I was going for. Yeah, weirdly, I'd pick somebody like Catamol, who I know obviously divides opinion massively, but I bet you he's got a hell of a lot of stories that would, raise the hairs on the back of your neck. And as much as I'd love to, Phillips or Quinn or, I'm sure they'd be brilliant. That weird part of us that sort of hates myself is like, no, you want to hear about it all going wrong. You want to hear all the skeletons in the closets. Get him in. So yeah, I'll say cut them all, but it's for a weird reason.
Yeah, I know who's top of my list, but I'm interested to hear yours first, Andrew.
Well, Gav, let me think about this.
I'd interview Gav, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a really interesting question, that. I think I would just go pretty route one and pick somebody from like when I first started going. So the 90s era. Maybe Tony Norman, because you don't hear much from Tony Norman. And when I first started playing football, I fancied myself as a goalkeeper. So I might have a bit of a chat with Tony Norman and get a few tips off him, I think.
That green shirt, I had that green shirt, and I loved that. Was the best goalkeeper shirt Sunderland have ever had.
Yes.
Proper brilliant memories of him in that West Ham game and that cup run. Absolutely brilliant. My number one, and not just football, but it'd have to be Brian Clough.
Yeah,
straight.
Yeah, that's a good call. That like.
And talk to him about absolutely everything from politics to footy to Sunderland to
the best knitwear to
yeah. Why didn't get the Sunderland job? Why didn't get the England job? All of that sort of stuff. Yeah. But that would be the number one. But anyway, I think we've rambled on long enough. And apologies to everyone whose questions I didn't get round to. There was a lot of questions, but we just want to end quickly. Andrew, you've got something you wanted to bring up about an initiative from the club at the moment.
Yes, yeah. Just obviously, I'm not a big boxing fan and I don't know the full story, but we've had the sad news over the weekend that Ricky Hatton's passed away. Really popular fella. As I say, we don't know the circumstances, but we believe he was struggling with mental health. And it times quite well with the club, a part of a Premier League initiative that was launched last week called Together Against Suicide. Now, if you go on the club website, there's a really interesting interview with Enzo Lefebvre, who unfortunately has experience in his family of suicide. It's a really, really difficult situation some people are finding themselves in. I'm pleased that the club are trying to raise awareness and get us talking about these types of issues. And just if you can get on the website, there's a couple of articles there. There's the one with Enzo Lefebvre. There's the one the club have put out, which has a few links and a bit more information about the issue. I just think it's something that we all need to try and be aware of and help each other through.
Yeah, couldn't have said any better, Andrew. And a fantastic initiative by the club to help people along with that. And of course, people, if they can find help, if they need it, it'd be fantastic. But I think that finishes off for today. Johnny, just wanted to say thank you once again, mate.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure and never a chore.
Oh, well, yeah, the times has been a chore today, being called Gav, Andrew, as we'll move on. But thank you very much for your time, Andrew.
Thank you. Genuine apologies about that. I don't know where that's come from. But other than that, I've loved it, Chris. Some really, really good questions there. So good fun. And apologies again. I will, for a fact, I'll be sending you a WhatsApp as soon as we're finished. just holding my hands up, saying really sorry.
I'll take being called Gav as a compliment. Don't worry about that. But yeah, thanks again for everyone for listening, and really genuinely thank you very much for the questions. As Andrew said, there were some fantastic questions in there, and it was good fun to go through them and talk about them. We're going to have loads on the How We the podcast this week, of course. building up to our next fixture, and we'll just bathe in Sunderland being in 7th position in the Premier League, which is fantastic, and we can't get enough of. So keep a look out on the Roker Report website for all of the reaction to that and everything else as well. We've got the On This Days, and we had the On This Week as well that went out at the beginning of this week, so look out for that as well. But from us, it's bye for now.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.